So my name is Megan. I'm the community manager here at Premier TEFL, and we are joined by Aveen, the admissions advisor, and the lovely Enzo, our on-the-ground partner in South Korea. We're going to answer questions and any information about COVID, visa requirements, all that and more throughout the webinar. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat box and we'll get round to them at the end of the webinar. And for now, we're just going to kick right off. Aveen is going to start us off with the requirements to teach in South Korea. If you find that you may not be able to teach in South Korea because you don't meet the requirements, you're more than welcome to stay at the webinar and learn about life in South Korea, or you're more than welcome to leave. The choice is entirely up to you. Can you take us away, Aveen?
Yeah, so first off, we need somebody that holds a bachelor's degree, which was issued in a native English-speaking country. So from one of the big 7 English-speaking countries. You need to be between the ages of 21 and 35. And you need to hold a passport from either the UK, Ireland, the US, Canada, Australia, or New Zealand. Now, further down the line, we may be able to take in South African applicants, but at the moment that is on hold due to COVID. You also need to have a TEFL certificate, and if you don't have one, that's totally fine because it is included in the program. You need to have a criminal background check done, and that is required from every country that you have lived in over the age of 18 years. You need to be in good health, both mentally and physically. And you need to be available for a minimum of 1 year. So it is a 12-month placement. We're looking for people that are enthusiastic and flexible on preferences. So that's the requirements anyway, Megan, if you want to speak a little bit more about South Korea.
Yeah, so from my research of South Korea, I would love to go myself, but unfortunately I can't do that right now. And I was very surprised to find that there is, you can ski in South Korea. Enzo, is that right? Can you actually ski in South Korea?
Yeah, they've got really great skiing facilities, loads of good mountain slopes and stuff like that. So skiing is definitely one of the popular winter sports in Korea.
And have you taken part in any K-pop karaoke yet?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know if I'm too afraid to admit it.
Maybe when the restrictions lift and when the interns join you, you might go on a night out with the karaoke.
For sure.
There's also like lots of other lovely things to do. You can visit Apson Park. There's the Spirited Gardens. One thing in particular that I found is the Tricky Eye Museum. And looking at the photos and videos, it was very trippy. I think you'd have maybe a bit of trouble navigating around because you're so immersed in it. But South Korea basically is the country. It's rich in culture with old traditions, Asian culture with modern society. I think it's a beautiful blend to be immersed in 2 very different things all combined into one. And Enzo, can you tell us a bit more about the internship? The salary, insurance, accommodation, what would someone expect as part of the internship if they were to join it?
Yeah, sure, of course. So just kind of to overview what's included in the program and in the internship program. So first of all, salary. South Korea does offer a very competitive package. Now in South Korean won, you're looking at about 2 million to 2.3 million Korean won, which is about 1,700 to 1,900 US dollars, which I think is around about 1,500 to 1,800 euros. That's your salary. Signing up to the program as well, you'll also have the option of signing up for a TEFL course if you don't have that already. You will also get partial flight reimbursement, which is provided by the school. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. Accommodation as well is also included for the full 12 months. So you won't need to pay anything towards a deposit or towards your monthly rental. The only expenses you would have would be your monthly utilities. But in Korea, those are very minimal. You also get signed up for Korean National Health Insurance after you arrive. The school pays 50% of that, and the remaining 50% is just taken from your salary. You also get something called a severance check, which is basically like a 13th check. So for every 1 year contract that you complete, you'll get a bonus month salary, which accumulates year on year. It's a nice little bonus. So at the end of every year, you can have a little bit extra money to go home, travel, treat yourself, whatever it is that you'd like to do. We also include 2 orientation weekends per year, one in spring and one in fall. These are obviously COVID dependent, but what we essentially do is we'll invite all our teachers up to Seoul, 2 consecutive weekends, twice a year, and we do a nice mix of in-class and outdoor activities. We do some Korean language, we visit the Grand Palace, we have a welcome dinner where we go for Korean barbecue, things like that. So a nice opportunity to meet the team, meet other teachers, network, make friends, and explore Seoul, which is really awesome. We also provide logistic and arrival support. So at the moment, we can't arrange airport pickup just because it's not possible, but we do arrange full support for your arrival, what to expect, what to do, how quarantine works, how to get to your location, all that kind of stuff. And we do also offer ongoing in-country and future placement support. So myself and my team based here in Korea, we're here on standby, not 24/7, but pretty much all the time. If you need anything, you can reach out to us. We're here to help you out with any kind of queries or questions, anything that you may need help with. And, if you want support in signing a new contract or switching to a different school or even switching to a different country, we would be able to help you out with that as well. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers the main inclusions of the internship and the program. Some things that you need to kind of arrange before coming, which is part of what we will help you with. But there's a bunch of visa documents you need to gather up and collect. You need to create yourself a teacher profile, which we'll help you with. Obviously, you need to get a teaching visa, which we'll guide you through and help you with as well. Arranging flights, so we'll offer you support in arranging those flights. It is something you have to pay for yourself up front, but it is reimbursed by the school once you arrive and once you start teaching. You'll need travel insurance just to make sure that you're all set through your flight and until your Korean national health insurance can take effect. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Obviously, the visa documents and the list of those documents are quite extensive. So, full support on getting them done, getting them legalized, getting them ready for use, and just any other kind of questions and queries and preparation guides or anything like that to prepare you to come over to South Korea. We're also offering at the moment 1 month's free Korean language classes. We usually get you signed up about a month after you arrive so that you've had some time to get settled in. You can then sign up to those free language classes. And we also offer a 1-week orientation course for all the teachers coming over to South Korea that runs every month. So you'll have the opportunity to network, to learn a bit about the history and the culture before you even come over to South Korea. So quite a comprehensive offering, all included in the package that you sign up for. And yeah, basically we're here, the on-the-ground team is here, and we're here to kind of help you out and support you through everything.
That actually sounds fantastic. Like, I was already sold before you told us all that, but I'm even more sold now. And I suppose reading between the lines, what isn't in every criteria is that there's so much personal support from you guys. So it's not just the someone applies through Premier TEFL to join the internship. It's they get all, they have support from the Premier TEFL staff, and then they have support from you guys as well. The people who are actually living over there, who know, the culture, the customs, the do's and the don'ts, even tips to go on a night out, they have that support on there. And most importantly is, like, even for me, the scary bits for traveling is the visa requirements, the documentation, the passport guidelines, and they have all that help throughout the whole process. So it's just fantastic to hear how much personal support there is as well.
Right. And I mean, myself personally, I've lived in Korea for 5 years and I taught for 3 of those years. There's 2 other guys on the underground team. They've also have, one of them taught for 2 years and one of them taught for 3 years. So all of us have lived for an extended period of time in Korea. We've all been through the process. We've taught in public and private schools. We have that experience of actually doing it ourselves. We've all applied for visas. We've all collected the documents. We've all traveled to Korea. We've all lived in Korea. We've all taught in Korea. So you're dealing with a team who's actually all done it themselves. So peace of mind knowing that, you know, you have that kind of first-hand experience of someone who's helping you out through it.
And I think peace of mind is such a huge factor to have, especially traveling in times like these. Regarding COVID and traveling, quarantine, COVID certificates to fly, do you have any information about that?
Sure. So that's probably the biggest question on everybody's mind, I'm sure, COVID and what happens, stuff like that. Nice thing about Korea is that it's pretty much remained open throughout the entire pandemic. It's never really shut its borders to any of the qualifying countries. There was a small blip for about 2 months when the Delta variant broke out, where they stopped issuing visas for South African and UK applicants. That was very short term. It only lasted for about 2 months. Everything then resumed. And since then, everything has been resuming full steam ahead. So we've brought teachers every single month throughout the entire pandemic. We've helped them to arrive. We've helped them through quarantine. We've helped them through, you know, pre-arrival, post-arrival support, all that kind of stuff. So not to worry about that. We've got your back. We've got experience. We've probably brought about more than 100 teachers over in the last, since the pandemic started, probably more than that. I don't know the exact number, but a lot of teachers. So peace of mind in that sense. Just to kind of go through what to expect. So before you depart, there are a few extra things that you need. You obviously need a COVID test, a fit to fly certificate to be able to enter South Korea. Then once you arrive, you will have to do a full 14-day quarantine. So that can either be done at your own private residence supplied by the school, or it would have to be done at a government facility. That's determined by the program that you apply for. So public school, you have to do it at a government facility. Private school, you can do it at your own private residence. Arriving at the airport, it's very well managed. South Korea has probably been one of the better, if not best, countries to deal with the pandemic. When you arrive, you've kind of chauffeured and managed through quarantine, through passport control, immigration, baggage collection, and then depending on where your end destination is, you'll be put onto special public transport and basically guided to your front door. So not much to worry about there. The staff in Korea handle it very carefully. They don't want someone who's been traveling internationally mingling with general population. So they make sure that everything's well managed and well controlled. So from that sense, everything's taken care of. We'll obviously give you all the information that you need and your address and a contact phone number, emergency contacts, a full detailed guide on what to expect and what to do and what apps to have on your phone and all that kind of stuff. So you'll have everything that you need. We also recommend the 3 months of travel insurance, which I touched on earlier. That's just in case you test positive on arrival or something happens in the first week or 2 or 3 or however long before you get your medical insurance signed up. Just an extra layer of cover, just to make sure that if something does happen, you are fully covered. Just to kind of touch on quarantine again. So with private schools, it's done at your own private apartment. 99 times out of 100, that's covered by the school. They'll sort you out. We'll send you a shopping list to fill out so you can, you know, write down the groceries that you'd like for your 2 weeks. For public schools, however, you do have to go into the government facility, and it is something you have to pay for yourself. So that's just something to bear in mind, that if you do go for public schools, you know, quarantine is your own expense. It's about 1.6 million Korean won for the 2 weeks. It's fully catered, Wi-Fi, 3 meals a day, everything's done for you, all your COVID tests, everything's included in that cost. So that's just kind of one thing to bear in mind there. And yeah, I mean, I guess that covers pretty much everything around COVID. I'm not sure if you guys from the team have anything you wanted to add, or maybe anything you'd like me to address specifically on COVID.
Not specifically. I suppose just in terms of COVID, everything is a little bit slower at the moment. So we would advise, you know, getting your visa organized at least 4 months before you're due to travel, just to give us time to get all of that kind of going. So I would recommend booking as soon as possible and just get the ball rolling with that one.
Yeah, the average time at the moment, we're looking at about 4 to 6 months, I would say. That's from the day you sign up and start collecting your documents until the day you get on the flight. Visas are taking about 1.5 to 2 months just by themselves. That's after you've signed a contract. and everything preceding that is collecting documents and going through the interview process with schools. So the sooner you sign up, the sooner you can get started on documents, the more chance you have of coming over and sticking to the timeline.
Absolutely. Perfect. And you mentioned public schools and private schools. When you apply for the internship, do you choose which school you're going to be teaching in, or is that something that's just randomized?
No, so you have the choice. When we reach out to you, we'll give you more information about the different programs. The different programs each have their own, I wouldn't say pros and cons, but their own different characteristics, I guess. You just find the one that better suits you. We'll chat you through it. All of us have experience teaching in both, so we can give you kind of first-hand experience on what it's like. We can find the better fit for you, and then we can proceed in applying for that program. Public schools, because it's a government-run program, you need to apply into their program per se, so it's not necessarily guaranteed. We can help you to get the best possible application done, help you to submit a strong application. If for whatever reason it's unsuccessful, that's not the end of the road. You're not dropped from the program. We can then just switch you over to private schools and assist you with private schools. A private school position, if you're accepted into the program, is always guaranteed. So you can choose private or public, but you will always be guaranteed a placement regardless of what happens.
And where are those located? So we have South Korea. So is there a specific part of South Korea all the internship happens in, or is it spread over in various cities?
No, so it's completely flexible. We do offer positions across the entire country. Now, with public schools, because it's a government-run program, you can put down your preferences, but essentially they will place you where and as they need you to fill positions that are available in public schools. With private schools, it's a little bit different. So we can try and match preferences to specific areas or specific locations, and then search for schools hiring in those locations. We can't always guarantee things 100% just because there are so many factors involved, school preferences, teacher preferences, job availability, all those kind of factors, but we'll do our best to try and match it for you. But yeah, I mean, most positions are probably in city and metropolitan areas, just because that's where the majority of the population is located. But if you're looking for something a bit smaller or something coastal, something in the south, we can do our best to try and find something there.
Great. And if there was a question about passports, so it's passports need to be in date until mid-2023. What if your passport isn't in date until then? Maybe it's expiring just a bit earlier. What is there something?
Yeah, we recommend about 18 months on your passport. It needs to be valid for at least the 13 months that your visa is valid. But giving yourself a bit extra time would save you the hassle of trying to apply from abroad, which, if anyone's ever tried to do that, knows how frustrating it is and how long it takes, 6 months to a year in some cases. So ideally, have it valid until mid-2023. If it's earlier than that, it might be worthwhile getting it applied for as soon as possible now, and then it's ready, and we can proceed kind of after that.
Great. And if there is a couple, so can you apply as a couple and do the internship together? And how does that work out with accommodation arrangements then as well? Can they stay together as well?
So for married couples, it's obviously a lot easier. A married couple, we can search for a couple's position at a school. Obviously, we need to find a school who's hiring 2 teachers and who has a couple's apartment, which may take a little bit of time, but we have been able to successfully do it for pretty much all our married couples. We haven't really had any major issues. For dating couples, it's a little bit more difficult. Obviously, there's concerns about couples breaking up or something like that from the school side, which can maybe count a little bit against your favor. But again, we've always been very successful finding schools who are hiring for couples positions. If that's not possible, plan B would be 2 separate positions, but in the same city or area or region, so that at least you would be close to each other. So that's kind of, I would say, worst case scenario. You may be 30 minutes to an hour away from each other, but the public transport's so easy in Korea to use and to get around on. Meeting up in the evenings and over weekends and stuff like that is very easy.
And if the couple is unmarried, can they stay in the same apartment, or does is there something that South Korea doesn't allow an unmarried couple to stay in the same
No,
apartment?
no, no. They can. Managing the logistics around that may be a little bit tricky, especially if you're signed up with two different schools. You may have to go in to your own apartments, and then maybe if you stay on for a second year, you can arrange for one of you or something else like that. If you sign at the same school as with a couple's position, then in most cases they would have a couple's apartment or two apartments in the same apartment block, something like that.
Great. And is that the same then if you just want to apply with your friend? Would this person let you know that I'm applying with, my friend, and that's done in the application process, is it?
Correct. So if there's two friends applying together, we can do the same kind of things we would do for a dating or an unmarried couple. You probably then wouldn't want to share an apartment, I'm sure. So if we can find a position, two positions at the same school, with your own apartment, or if that's not possible, two separate positions but in the same general area, we can look for positions like that. Now, again, there are so many factors involved. Job availability in the same area, obviously having, passing an interview. So we may be able to find two positions, but you have to pass the interview. So there are many factors, but we will certainly try our best to try and do that and to manage that.
Perfect. And with accommodation, do you help in the search for accommodation? And is there a cost with it? And can you quarantine in your own apartment?
Yeah, so if you go with private schools, then certainly you can quarantine in your apartment. You don't, it's all arranged for you by the school. So you don't need to search for your own apartment. You don't need to worry about trying to find something before you arrive, anything like that. Your apartment is pre-arranged by the school. They pay the deposit, they pay the monthly rental. Basically, you just arrive, move straight in, and off you go, away you go. In some cases, teachers can request a stipend, in which case the school would pay you an additional certain amount of money, and then you would need to find your own place to live. But for somebody coming over as a first-time teacher, I wouldn't recommend that. Deposits in South Korea are very expensive, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 just for your deposit. And then you need to obviously pay your monthly rental. You would need to have your registration card before you'd be able to apply and sign a lease, which takes anywhere from 1 to 2 months at the moment. So you may find yourself living out of an Airbnb or something like that until everything gets done and signed up. So I'd recommend for the first year coming over and moving into the apartment supplied by the school. And then once you're settled and that kind of thing, if you wanted to move out or move location or something, you can always just chat to your school and see what's possible.
Wow, knowing how difficult house hunting and apartment hunting can be, having that arranged for you, you just show up, move in, and start your new life in South Korea. That's amazing.
Yep. Plus the apartment is going to be mostly furnished. So it'll have a bed and a fitted kitchen, AC, underfloor heating, a laundry machine or laundry facilities. So it's pretty much, ready for you to move in and to live in. So you're not worrying about buying stuff and running around in your first week and trying to get it all fitted and kitted out. The smaller, more personal items may not be there. So maybe like crockery or cutlery, bedding, towels, things like that. But they're very, very easy to get. And if you need something like that during quarantine, we can always arrange it for you. And the school can arrange it.
Wow, that's amazing. Did I hear underfloor heating? Oh, that's fancy now.
Full underfloor heating and air conditioning. It's definitely needed in winter and in summer in Korea.
Is it very cold in the winter in South Korea? If you were to advise someone, you're coming for 12 months, pack the essentials, what would you advise them to bring on your experience with the seasons in South Korea?
So it depends which season you're coming. Summer is extremely hot, anywhere to 40 degrees. In summer, it's been about 40 degrees the last 2 weeks up in Seoul. Very hot, very, very humid. So the air conditioning that you get comes in very handy. If you come in winter, freezing cold. We had temperatures close to -30 this winter with wind chill. So very, very extreme. One thing I would say is that clothing and stuff like that in Korea is pretty reasonably priced. So try not to overpack. Pack the essentials that you need, and you can always get additional items in Korea, especially things like winter clothing. So big full down jackets, coats, stuff like that, which takes up a lot of space. It's very easy to get that kind of stuff in Korea. So prepare for extreme weather conditions, and don't worry about it too much. You can get what you need in Korea if you're not able to bring it from home.
That's great advice. can you share the highlights and features of the internship? So what I mean, I want to know what I can do on the weekend when I'm not teaching, where I can go, what I can see, things like that.
Yeah, sure, of course. So, I mean, at the moment, one of the nice things about Korea is that Korea's never had a full lockdown, especially during COVID times. So you're not stuck in your apartment, you're not limited to where you can go. There's no curfew where you have to be back at home by a certain hour. There are obviously restrictions in place. So restaurants close at 10 p.m. Certain public areas are closed at certain hours, but you can pretty much do kind of as you please. Now, depending on where you're located, obviously there's loads of different things to do. So if you're in the south, you would be close to maybe a city like Busan, which is the second biggest city in Korea, but it's also located next to the beach. It's got some of the best beaches. So if you like beach and ocean vibes, being placed in the south is a great option. Obviously, Seoul is the city everybody knows. Big nightlife city, massive city. I think 20 million people in the greater Seoul area. Loads of cafes, loads of bars, loads of themed cafes, if you know anything about Korea, are massive. So cat cafes or goat cafes or the Trick Eye Museum, those kind of things are really, really big. Korea has a very kind of big nightlife culture, which at the moment is a little bit muted just because of what's going on, but 24-hour culture, 24-hour convenience stores, late night dining, all that kind of stuff as well. And then a nice mix of the modern and of the traditional, as you mentioned at the beginning. So the traditional palaces, temples, parks, all that kind of stuff, along with the modern technology, fast internet, great network, public transport networks, bullet trains, cheap flights, that kind of thing. Now, obviously, post-COVID, when travel resumes, it's also a great hub to travel from. So Southeast Asia is very accessible, East Asia as well. So it's a great place and a great hub to kind of travel around from. And yeah, I think that's kind of the main highlights, I would guess. Obviously, K culture, K-pop, K-drama. Food, I don't know how I missed food, but the food is probably my favorite part. Korean food is amazing. Yeah, and then even carry on.
What's that?
Oh no, I was gonna say you can carry on.
Oh yeah, no. What's your favorite dish in South Korea?
I get asked that question so much and it's impossible to answer. There's so many great things, Korean barbecue, the simple things like a roll of kimbap, which is kind of similar to a sushi roll, but it's more like we would think of as a sandwich or a lunchbox item for kids, to braised ribs, to kimchi. Obviously, everyone knows kimchi. I mean, the choice is endless. It can be a bit spicy. I never ate spicy food before I came to Korea, but now I find that I crave it. It's not like Thai spice that blows your head off. It's a nice warming spice. So I mean, it's great. Food, street food, food markets, things like that. So if you're a foodie, it's a great place to go.
And how much time off would someone have during the internship to taste all the food of South Korea and to see everything and do everything?
Yeah, so when it comes to your job and working, all jobs in Korea are Monday to Friday. So you'd have your weekends off unless there's a special event or an outing or something like that once or twice a year. Basically, you're working Monday to Friday, so you would have your weekends off. You also get all public holidays off in Korea. So all red days, they call them red days in Korea, all kind of national government holidays. And then depending on whether you're public schools or private schools, you'll also get some vacation days. So private schools, you're looking at around about 8 to 10 days. And then public schools, you're looking at around 18 days per year. So you do get a fair amount of time off. There are also 2 long weekends in Korea, which are usually 4 or 5 day long weekends. And those kind of fall in the middle of the 2 semesters between your vacation time as well. So you kind of get 4 roughly week-long periods off per year.
Wow, that's great. And Aveen, if someone is convinced now that South Korea is what they're doing next with their life, how do they apply?
Okay, so we are currently enrolling for the next available start date, which will be spring of next year, so spring 2022. And if you have any questions, I guess the best thing to do would be just to contact me with my email address here, and I can answer any concerns that you may have before enrolling. But if you're kind of ready to go, you've decided you're going to book your place, you go to the website, select the South Korea internship page, you select the next start date from the drop-down menu and click book now to make your payment. So today we have an exclusive discount for everybody who will be watching the webinar back or are here today with us. And the code will take 15% off of the booking price for you. So the code is South Korea 15. I think Megan is going to put it into the chat box there for us. So you can apply that into the promo code section of the website and it will take a nice little chunk off of the booking fee for you. I think that's pretty much it. We have very limited spaces, so the demand for the places is high. We have a lot of people interested in the next available start date, and we currently have 14 places left. We will need to close the bookings at the very latest, the end of August. Now, if the places go before that, obviously we will need to close it off a little bit sooner. So I would recommend booking as soon as possible if you're interested. Yeah, and that's pretty much it from me. If you have any questions, do get in touch.
And Aveen, if someone applies to South Korea and they're already TEFL certified, because we know it's included and it's needed,
yes.
Is there anything Premier TEFL can do for them?
Yeah, if you're already TEFL certified, we wouldn't expect you to do the course again. So once your certificate is for 120 hours at a minimum, just let me know. So send me over a copy of your certificate and I would issue you with a promo code to enter at the checkout to take $75 or 75 euros off of the price of your booking.
And if someone has very particular concerns or questions, can they give you a call or an email just to discuss? Maybe they don't want to discuss it in front of everyone and it's very particular.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you'd like to send me over an email first, that would probably be the easiest way to get in touch, and then we can look at scheduling a call at a day and time that suits you.
And you mentioned the start date on the website. When is the start date for this internship?
Yeah, so it will range from kind of January up to March time, depending on which school you would be placed at.
Perfect. And Enzo, so when someone finishes the brilliant South Korean internship, do they have an option to stay in South Korea and continue their time? Maybe
yes, correct. So your contract period is for 1 year. If you decide to stay at the same school, you can renew your visa, just keep on working. If you wanted to change schools or switch between public and private schools, we would offer you support and second placement support, and then you could just transfer your visa from one school to the next and continue working. If you didn't want to stay in Korea and you wanted to travel to a different destination, and we have that destination in our network, we would then be able to help and offer you support to move over to a different destination as well. So it's not limited to just 1 year. Basically, it's a lifetime placement. So you can carry on working as long as you want, as many locations as you want. And we can continue to help you out with additional placements.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Enzo, for all that information throughout the whole webinar. You're an information beacon for teaching in South Korea. So just to close out the webinar, do you have a favorite thing since you moved over to South Korea?
Wow, favorite thing.
What's your favorite experience of living in South Korea?
It's a difficult one. I actually moved home after 3 years to try and settle back at home. And after 6 months, I couldn't get Korea out of my head and I had to come back. And I came back and I've been back for another about 2.5 years. So I think Korea as a whole just kind of grabbed my heart. I would probably say the warmth of the people, the fact that every day is an adventure, there's always something new to learn, and definitely the food, craving the food. But for me, the mix of modern and traditional, I really love the outdoors, and Korea is very mountainous, so great for hiking, great nature. the traditional palaces and temples. I really love that side of things too. It's just a real combination of factors that just kind of took my heart, I guess.